Gentlemen, I was telling you right up here on Trail 16, I said we're going to move forward and we're going to talk about the concept of what's it like when a man enters a room. Because every time a man enters a room, he changes his mood. He either takes the life out of it or adds to it. I don't think there's anything more interesting than that moment when a man is anticipated coming home, when he's been longed for and waited for, and suddenly there he is. And when he arrives, it's like a soldier returning from war. It's like that surprise moment when somebody special just entered the life of the family. Here we are on trail number 16. It's called Family, War, and Peace. It's about the part of the family that you and I have to grapple with as to whether we add something or whether we take something away. I want you to think about that concept in light of the phrase that's written at the beginning of Trail 16 about what's it like when you enter your home, when a man enters a room. Look at this statement. One of the warrior's most important tasks while fulfilling his life calling is to take care of his family. This is one of the most important things that you can possibly do, is to take care of your family. Now, I know as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about you guys that are going, I don't really have a family. I don't really have someone I'm connected to. I'm divorced. I've kind of messed up, and you know what that's like. You made some choices that weren't very knightly, and so you don't have connections. Or maybe you've never had a family that you grew up with, a normal nuclear home that you lived with. Maybe that you've come to a place in your life where you're sort of out on your own or whatever. For me, I know exactly where I'm at. Obviously, I'm almost an empty nester. My sons are almost all left home. I'm at a place where I'm a grandfather, so I know where I'm at. Some of you guys are married without children. Some of you are considering marriage. Some of you have young children. So we're all at a variety of levels. Here's what I want to define in order for us to do this together. I want us to think in terms of any family, any people that we consider to be part of our family that we're connected to. We're connected to emotionally. We're connected to in social ways. The people that we've brought into our lives. Some of it maybe even surrogates that are just kind of people that sort of function like our moms and dads. We might even call moms or dads or uncles or aunts or cousins or friends that have sort of become brothers, sisters, and those kind of things. So wherever you are, when we talk about family, we all have it. Some of us have very natural connections, and some of them have been developed over a period of time. So keeping that in mind, here's the question. When you enter the room as a knight, what kind of knight do you enter the room as? Do you make a difference when you come in? Well, I remember when I first got married, when I would enter the room, I don't know why Lynn was happy to see me. Because at that particular point in my marriage, now I want you to know I loved Lynn from the moment I met her. So when I married her, I loved her. I wanted to seek her highest good. The problem was her highest good kept on getting in the way of my highest good, right? You know what that's about? So when I would come home from the day, I would bring flowers, but Lynn wasn't necessarily excited to see me because it was all about me taking. I would take, she would give. She might receive something, but it was after I would take. I was a taker. In fact, the only thing I think I was like was a fish called the anglerfish. Now, there's many species of anglerfish, but the one I'm thinking of is the anglerfish that you saw in the movie Finding Nemo. Now, I know, don't admit in your campfire if you saw it, if you don't have kids, but Finding Nemo has this fish that lives way deep down in the ocean. This particular species is about a mile down in complete darkness. Has a little light that kind of dangles over so that some fish that's looking for something to eat is drawn to the light, and they go near it, and then that fish eats them. It's kind of an ugly-looking female fish that takes care of this particular light and all the objects that are eaten. But the fish I'm thinking about is her husband. This little anglerfish is about 1/25 of her size, one of the smallest creatures in the sea. He comes along, and he has this the only thing he really has that's going in his favor is he has this marvelous ability to smell. And he will smell and smell until he finds a female. He will then swim up to her, he will open up his little mouth, and he will chomp down on her scales and absorb into her system. Over a period of time, his digestive system, his respiratory system will all be connected to hers. As a matter of fact, his lips will literally morph onto her that it'll just look like she has a growth off her body. And the only thing that remains functioning in him, his brain, everything else stops, everything else goes. The only thing that remains functioning is his ability to produce a sexuality for her as a male to give her life. He's basically just a sperm bank that's locked into her whenever she wants to reproduce. So often, guys, I got to be honest with you, I feel like that's what I was when I was first involved in my marriage. I would zap off of Lynn, and all I was a sperm donor. And I actually found pretty contentment in that whole area. I felt like that was pretty cool spandex living. Guys, when you walk in the home, I don't care what's hidden behind your back, if all you are is a drain that thinks of himself as a sperm donor, you can throw the flowers away. But when you're a man like a warrior, a knight, a soldier who's returned from battle throughout history, that comes home and everybody's happy to see him. If you're that, then you're going to learn how to enter your house, enter your home, that we call in a way that deals with both the war and the peace that needs to take place in a family. So let's walk through this. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want us to grade yourself on these. We're going to just walk through a series of a bunch of areas, and I want you to give yourself anywhere from an A to an F. A to an F. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go to somebody that's significant in your life and go through the same questions, because as you think about these, I want you to think about these in light of the person you're going to go to and have them grade you. So don't look at your answers. They'll just grade you themselves. Now, if you're going to have a female do it, A to F will not be enough. They'll have B pluses, C minuses. They'll have all those kind of things. You're going to want them to grade you. All right? Now, why do you want to do that? Because I really believe that part of the area that allows us to hit the target as men, as knights of the 21st century, has to be centered around the importance of the family. So as you do this, you're going to think about a person you want to grade you. I might think of one of my sons. I might think of Lynn, somebody that's going to grade you in this process as we go through this. You want to give yourself a grade, how well you think you're doing, then find out how they think you're doing. All right, so there's two parts to this. You'll share your grades with the guys in your campfire. So don't forget, if you see a guy next to you not grading himself, just nudge him so we keep grading, because we want to grade at each answer, whether I remind you to do it or not throughout. So let's go take a look at these areas that we want to grade ourselves in. A warrior is expected to love his family well, creating a positive family bond, which will be evident when his family, okay, these are the things that are going to be evident when his family notices. And these things, all the numbers that we're about to do, will have to do with you being graded. When his family believes that he listens to them. Write that down. Number one, does your family believe that you listen to them? Now, doesn't mean are you present when they're talking. It means have you engaged? Eye contact, nodding, moving in, the things we talked about earlier when we said, okay, here's some power that a man has. Are you listening? Do you know what your kids are going through? Do you know what your mate's going through? Have you heard about their day, or do you just kind of turn on electronics and sort of ignore them and try to blank it out? How are you doing listening? Now give yourself a letter grade. A to F. How do you do in that particular area? That's actually an area I've become very good at, so I'm going to score myself fairly high in this area. Why it's important? People only know how to share what they're going through verbally. I mean, there's a whole bunch of body language we can send, but it really comes through language. And when we shut them down, especially as your kids get older, as they start to grow up and they start talking less, all of a sudden you find yourself, man, you better be listening when the opportunity arrives. Number two. Feels safe with him. Feels safe with him. Does your family feel safe with you? Now you say, okay, where's the war and peace come in on this thing, Keith? Well, if they don't feel safe with you, the family's at war. If they feel safe with you, it's at peace. Family war and peace comes by when you enter a room. Remember, every time a man enters a room, he changes its mood. Every single time. You either raise it or you lower it. So do they feel safe with you? Now that question of feeling safe means this. They feel like you judge them. I don't mean that they are afraid you're going to hit them. That might be the case, and you already know what a problem that is. If you're just going to be reacting, swatting around. But do they feel like you judge them? You feel like you devalue what's important to them? Do they feel like if they hand you a report card, you'll only see the low grades and not the high grades? Do they feel like you won't think what they experienced that day was important? They think that you will somehow put them down, especially with others around. It gets overwhelming when we move in this direction. Look at number three. Desires to spend time with him. Now, I'm scoring pretty good here. Desires to spend time with him as I walk through this. This one, though, I have to stop for a moment and make sure about that. Desires to spend time with him does not mean you desire to spend time with them. I'm not asking if you desire to spend time with them. You should. It's do they give you feedback by letting you know they desire to spend time with you? When you come home, do your little kids reach up to you? If you have a surrogate dad where you just have, you're a surrogate father, you have a surrogate father in your life. When you're around, do you sense that he wants to be with you, or does he kind of run and hide? Does he ignore you? I mean, those are great questions to stop. Do they have a desire to be with you? You'll get an idea of what kind of vibe you're sending off. Is it a peaceful one? Is it a war one? By whether or not they desire to spend time with you. Be careful, by the way, guys. When little kids reach up to grab you, reach up to hold you, and you ignore them, they will learn to stop doing that. They're going to learn at a certain point anyway. You're going to have to fight for them during their teenage years to reach up and embrace and have a relationship with you. You teach them early on. So be very, very careful in this area. Same with your wives, same with your friends, you know, whatever you're thinking of. How do you score yourself at this particular point? Number 4, feels that he respects their life stage, their viewpoint, and confidently receives his advice. In other words, do they feel like you respect them where they are? Or do they feel like you control them? See, I don't respect somebody if I'm controlling them. What I'm trying to do is manipulating them to take care of me. Now, even if you think you're being good as a parent and you're helping somebody to be what you want them to be, if they feel controlled, they don't feel respected. So respecting is, do you respect them at their life stage, at the journey of where they're at? You know what's really fascinating? I had to learn to respect Lynn as a woman who spent her whole day with little kids. Now, I didn't see her as a mother. I saw her as a wife. I saw her as the woman I had fallen in love with. I wasn't thinking motherly. I was thinking when I would come home, how would she respond to me in certain ways that would make me feel like a husband, would make me feel like it's about me, right? Would I respect what she had gone through all the day, during the day? You know, when I come home at night, when our kids were real little, I was the relief pitcher. Her arm was blown. She was tired of throwing pitches all day long. So when I entered the room, she was saying, here, you pitch for a while. And I'm sitting there going, I'm tired. It's all about me. How come you're not loving me like you used to? Do you know what's really interesting? You know when a lot of guys have affairs? A lot of guys have affairs when their children are little. You know why? Because their wives aren't responding to them like they used to. Their wives are tired at night. Their little kids are crashing into the room all the time. They've been giving. They don't feel romantically involved. They don't feel cared for. Guys, you have to guard yourself. There and midlife crisis, two of the biggest areas where guys who don't naturally move in sexual deviation, these are where you and I tend to look for somebody who makes us feel special. You have to understand, part of it's to do with the fact that you're not showing respect to them. Let me give you something that's just kind of free, and it's unfortunate I have to give this to you because it's something, a trend I've been noticing. In the last several months, I've talked to a number of couples where the female had the affair. Most of them started in gyms. Interesting. I think I had 7 people in this category. 5 were from gyms, 2 were from the internet. Now, as I started to examine each woman, as we talked about her journey, she started sharing with me what had created this affair. What it was she didn't feel respected. He didn't understand me. Now, she also had some other problems because most of the women in this category, their children were somewhere in between the age of 8 and 12. They felt like their children didn't need them either, and their husband had learned not to need them. So, guys, these are areas we got to be very, very careful in. How are we bringing war and peace into our home? Look at the next one, and make sure you grade yourself. How did you do on this one? Do you feel like you respect their life stage? Number 5, considers his needs as a natural expression of appreciation for the ways he has served them throughout their lives. Consider his needs as a natural expression for appreciation for the ways he served them throughout their lives. Now, I have to tell you, I've gotten all A's and B's up until now. In fact, I graded myself all B's. Lynn and my boys actually gave me a few A's up until now. This one, however, I didn't score well, and they didn't score me well. This is one that I want you to think about. If you're going to be a knight, and you want to be otherly, this is where I got out of balance a little bit. I want to be otherly. I would give and not expect to receive. That's very important. It's part of what you do. You don't expect to receive. However, I kept on giving them no opportunity to give back. I never made it reciprocal. Guys, how are you doing on this? Are you letting your family care for you? Are you letting those you love care for you? Are you letting those around you build you back up, give back into you? It's a natural desire of them to express. You actually create tension in your home when they say, what can we do for you? And you go, nothing. Because nothing sounds like they have nothing to give, and they want to give back. So even in this journey that we go through, see, I was a taker, right? So when I became a giver, it took me a long time, and I'm still really struggling through this. I would much rather give than receive now. As a result of that, I keep denying my family the opportunity to serve. Even the guys on our team here will tell you that I will tend to over-serve and under-receive. So how do you score in that one? All right, I'm at a C. I got a C plus for my family. I was a C on this one. Look at the next one. This will help a little bit. He looks to his leadership skill. They look to his leadership skills to assist them in decision making. They look to his leadership skills to assist. That means basically this. They see you as a problem solver, not a problem creator. When you come in the house, have you just created a new set of problems, or when you come in the house, are you the one that can help them make good choices? Do you react? You're probably not good in helping them make good choices. Or do you take a moment, breathe in the information, breathe it out, and then decide, here's how I'm going to help you do it. And do you tell them what to do, or do you help them make the decision-making process? Depends on what stage of life they're in. Depends on what kind of day your wife's having. Depends what kind of relationship that your mom's going through. Whatever it is, whoever the person is here. And how do you score yourself in this? What kind of grade do you give yourself in that one? Look at the next one, number 7. Follows him as a model for principled living. Follows him. They're following you because you're a model. So it basically means the majority of the time when you walk in the house, they're glad you're home. The majority of the time when you arrive in any room, they're glad you've arrived in the room, right? It basically means that you practice what you preach. I think that's an area that is so important for us as guys. Do you practice what you preach? Do you have one set of rules for your kids and one set of rules for you? Are you consistent? If you say don't lie, do you not cheat on your income tax? Right? You see how it works? This is so important. How do you grade out on this one? I got to be honest with you. One of the things that shocked me is every one of my family members gave me an A on this one. Every single one of them. Which is an encouragement, which means my principles are now being lived out in such a way that as a knight they feel like, man, I'm doing this. I wish I could tell you I got A's in everything. I don't. But in this one, I do. How are you doing in that one? Are you practicing what you preach? I want you to think about a guy who I thought was very, very good in doing that as a warrior from history. His name is Schwarzkopf. He was a general. General Schwarzkopf was the one in charge of Operation Desert Storm. He was a man who, through a whole series of decisions and experiences in his life, was an observer of war. He was an observer of war and the importance of being all that you needed to be as a soldier. He actually signed up as a leader for a second tour of Nam. Most upper officers did not sign up to do that. He actually was given a platoon of men in which were ragtag, not very disciplined, and he drove them into discipline. Under his leadership, he will create one of the finest military forces in the world. There was a period of time in U.S. history in the last 30 years where we were not the finest military in the world. We were inept and we had lost our focus. Under Schwarzkopf's leadership, it became very focused. As a matter of fact, while everybody else wanted to prepare for certain types of wars, he wanted to prepare for desert warfare in the Middle East. So for years, while everybody else was trying to push another type, he kept on saying, no, we prepare this way, we prepare this way. And so when Operation Desert Storm took place, and he had 500,000 troops under his command, in one of the most impressive short-term victories that our nation had ever known, this was a man who was ready for such a moment. He was a man who practiced what he preached. He was a man who, when he would walk in the room, you knew who he was and you'd respect him. I'm going to put up for you a quote on the screen from General Schwarzkopf. Here's what Norman Schwarzkopf said. Leadership is a combination of strategy and character, but if you must be without one, be without strategy. Leadership. Leadership is about a man who has character and a man who has strategy. And if you got to be without one, be without the strategy, be about character. Whew. It's the kind of leader you can follow. I have a feeling, and I've never met Schwarzkopf, even though he lives in Jersey, not too far from where I am in Pennsylvania. The fact is that if he entered a room, I have a feeling that we go, whew, glad he's here. Men of character. Men of character. Consider the next one. Family, war, and peace. Number 8. This is somebody who gives an evidence for his family. He seeks him out to be comforted. When they need comfort, they seek us out. When they feel like they're in trouble, they feel like this person walks up to them and will understand and comfort. There's a statement we ask men to make to their daughters. This is actually from a guy by the name of Max Lucado, and wrote a book called about children, in case you ever wondered. It's about his 3 daughters. And basically what he says is, I will always love you. I will always be here for you. And then he says this, I'll always be on your side. It doesn't mean he'll always approve of what you do. It means that I'll always be there to help you when you get a bruised knee, when you get a bruise from a guy, when you get a bruise because of a stupid choice. I'll be there for you. Are you that kind of guy? Does your family come to you for comfort, or are you just, hey, buck up, get over it? You know, you have to decide where you are. I had boys, and they would forever be getting cut and scratched and beat up and all that kind of stuff. And the decision to know when to really, truly comfort and when to say, hey, yo, it's okay. Key decision, war and peace. If you are not very good at comforting, you have another problem. Number 9, expects to be challenged by him. They expect to be challenged by him. If you don't comfort well, they won't let you challenge them. My wife expects me to challenge her, to call her up. I also expect her to challenge me. When I walk in a room, do I challenge people in my family upward? Am I always calling them up, or am I tearing them down? Tearing them down, war. Calling them up, peace. Your job, your mood that you can set has everything to do with that. Now, how are you grading yourself? Make sure you're giving yourself a grade on this. Be as honest as you can, because you're going to at least let one other person that is intimately involved with you remember to grade you. Number 10. Pursues his reflections and thoughts as feedback on their growth. Pursues his reflections and thoughts as feedback on their growth. We talk about the importance of feedback around here. Does your family come to you and say, here's what I'm thinking, here's the feedback? Seth is going to the prom, and he wants to do this kind of a cool thing. He's not just renting his tux, he's doing a whole variety of things. He's coming to Lynn for feedback regarding ideas. He is not coming to me for feedback. You want to know why? Well, look at me. I have no social context. For the last 16 trails, you've been wondering, doesn't that guy know how to tuck in his shirts? Dude, this is as good as it gets. Number 1, this is not a great body to tuck in. And number 2, I have to ask Lynn, does black go with gray, and should I wear blue, black, what color, and how do I do? I am clueless. Seth goes to her for feedback. But when it comes to things that Seth needs to come to his dad about, does he come to me? Do the people that you're caring for, do they come to you for feedback? Help them readjust. You know how important feedback is? It'll help them readjust in the course of their life, the stages of life. And more importantly, or as important as that is, if they don't trust you with feedback and they start holding it in, it means they're going to get feedback from other sources. You know one of the hardest things for me to do is let my sons love another woman more than they love their mother. And actually, believe it or not, it's hard for me to do. And more importantly, it's actually hard for me to let them protect them more than they protect their mother. So when one of my sons makes a decision that hurts their mom because they're trying to protect their woman, man, I bristle at that. Now, how do we get through that journey together? Well, it's feedback along the way. Josh and I, my oldest son and I, have had the privilege of talking through in depth the relationship, because he's the first in just about everything. First in marriage, first to have a grandson. He's first, obviously he's my oldest son, first in a lot of areas. And our feedback, he has taught me how to respond to the other brothers. I'm a much better father because of the feedback I've received from Josh. I'm sure glad we didn't lose that connection. Feedback coming in means you also have feedback going out. And so this is the opportunity we have to think of. Well, another one that I think will help in the war and peace struggle of the family. It's number 11. Looks to his presence in their life. Just wants to look at what we're involved in. They look for us to just be around. They want us to be part of their journey. They want us in their memory pictures. They think about us. It's so much fun to watch my family grow and think in terms of wanting Lynn and I with them. When they want us there every single time, it makes you feel like you've done something right. How do you score in this area? Do people want your presence, or is the family better off without you? Go back to the picture that's behind me. The picture of the guy. He's now obviously coming home as a military guy, maybe from a day at the office, or maybe from a tour of duty. As he hands those flowers, the family's been functioning without him for a period of time. Are they glad? Are they glad he's there? Are they finding that they're okay with him? Are they finding that in the journey of that moment, that his presence is all they've longed for and they want? Or has it been easier to function without us? How are you grading yourself in that area? Look at number 12. They understand his sacrifice on their behalf. They understand his sacrifice on their behalf. Do you understand what you've done? We understand with a soldier, the sacrifice. But does your family, does your mate, does your friend, do your parents, do you understand what you've done from time and finances and energy? Do they understand that? How do they understand that? I think sometimes you tell them. You not tell them when you're in the heat of a battle. That's war, not peace. You tell them, one of my greatest joys, let me tell you about a story, and you tell them a story to just get them understanding, wow, don't take mom and dad for granted. Don't take my wife for granted. Don't take me for granted. Don't take being a parent for granted. How are my sons going to learn how to be parents? By me, right? How do I grade in that area? Number 13, expects his confrontation. My family expects confrontation when they choose self-destructive lifestyles and fail to guide their instincts. They expect me to put boundaries on them. They expect me, when they make choices, to confront them. All right? Now, I want you to think about that. When you think about the courage it takes to be a strong leader. Now, war and peace in a family means there are times when you will get peace, have to do that which feels like war to them. Best example of that is in your nightly news. There's a guy in there named Malchus. Malchus is actually a guy who's been sent in the middle of the night. He's a guard for the temple guard. So it'd be basically like, if you know of the Vatican, he's a Vatican police officer. He's a temple guard, and his job is to arrest Jesus at this particular point. That's what he's on his way to do. So he's not a military guy from that point of view, but he's like a special police, a secret service for a religious organization. When Malchus goes to approach Jesus and arrest him after Judas has kissed him, Peter whips out a sword. When Peter whips out his sword, he comes walking over. And Peter's not a swordsman, he's a fisherman. Peter's the guy that wants to build little structures everywhere. Peter's the guy that talks before he thinks. And he swings a sword before he's thought it through too. Because Peter chops off Malchus's ear. Do you want to know whether a man's a good warrior or not? Tell me how he swings a sword. When you swing a sword, guys, everybody knows in battle you don't ever swing down. The only way you chop off an ear is to swing down. You swing across, right? You chop off that head. Malchus sees Peter coming. Peter slashes with the sword and chops off his ear. He drops to the ground in pain. Jesus Christ needs to confront Peter and says, this is not the time. This is not the place. And he reaches down on the ground and he puts the ear back on Malchus. You want to kill a battle real quick? Start fixing everybody that gets chopped up in the middle of a battle. Jesus fixes the guy, and when Malchus gets fixed, things change. Things change so dramatically in him that this ear is like a living example to Peter about what's important and what isn't. What's to be done, what's not to be done. That's the art of confrontation, to set the boundaries. You need to learn to do that in your family's home, in your home. That's part of walking in and being a leader, being a knight. Look at the next one. The next point is number 14, which will be evident to his family when he assumes he will be willing to involve himself in their interests. How do you score this one? You're willing to involve yourself in the interests of your family. That means basically what is important to them is important to you. I had 3 athletes and one son, my youngest, who tried every sport there is, but is a musician, is an actor, is so gifted in those areas. Now, as having sons who were athletes, even though I was not necessarily very athletic, I could engage in all those things. I could coach them when they were young. I could do all those things. Never miss an event. With Seth, there's less I can engage in because of my ability. While I can act, I can't sing, and I don't even really appreciate music that much. So one of the joys has been learning to make Seth's interests mine. In Nights of the 21st Century at LCBC this past year, I did 23 of the 24, actually I did 47 of the 48 sessions we had. We do it twice a week, one at 6 o'clock in the morning and one at 7:30 with two different groups of men, about 350 guys, about 750 guys, 800 guys. And the only one I missed was a Thursday night. And it was a Thursday night when Seth was Hyde in the musical Jekyll and Hyde. He was phenomenal, absolutely incredible. Best evil guy you ever saw in your life. It was opening night of the show. I told the guys in the beginning of the year, or as soon as I knew he made that part halfway through the year, that I would miss that night. Why? His interests are mine. And I hate to miss opportunities like we're having right now. But I missed because that night it was about Seth and his interests. How are you doing in that one? Actually, I scored well in this one. How are you scoring? Let's look at another one and see how we score in that area. Number 15. Knows he will try to be part of their friends' lives. How will you do in being friends? Friends with your kids' friends as they grow older. Do you know who they are? Friends with your wife's friends. Friends actually with people that are important to them, whether the person you're thinking of is a parent, whether the person you're thinking of is an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, or whether it's, in my case, my sons or my wife. Do I value Lynn's friends? Or do I put them down? Do I want to be involved in them? Do I value my son's friends at every phase? You know what's interesting is my home the kind of home where his friends feel comfortable coming. And besides my crazy golden retriever dog who wants to lick everything, we're a pretty nice, warm, friendly house. And we are one of those group of people that just, I want my son's friends to make us their friends. That takes work. It takes the opportunity to do that. Score okay on that one. How do you score on the next one? Number 16. Realizes that he will separate from a family member whose intent is on self-destruction. It means I'm going to separate from somebody who their intent is to hurt themselves or hurt others. Guys, you might have to separate from certain family members for their own good to not help them, not enable them to keep destroying themselves. You might have to separate for your own good if it's pulling you down. I tell my sons, I will never, ever, ever kick you out of our house. Ever. However, you might have to leave our house because you choose not to stay within our guidelines. Now, I know it sounds like one and the same thing, but it actually isn't. I'm not kicking them out. They're choosing not to stay within the boundaries. There are times when I can't help them do that which is destructive. I have a rule. My sons do not live with their mates before they get married. My sons do not have sex before marriage. Now, that doesn't mean that my sons do or do not have sex before marriage. It means that's a guideline within our house. I have another rule. You don't lie. Don't lie. So if my son is going to perpetually lie, or if my son's going to choose to live with another woman, a woman that's not his wife, I will not help that. I believe it's hurtful. I think it's destructive. So in our family, they choose to step out of our bounds of our family. If they can't tell the truth within our family, then they're doing destructive behaviors. Especially if you have younger children, and so what are the guidelines? Sometimes you have to separate for your own being, probably even more often for their well-being, so you don't make it easy for them to do destructive things. Hard. Feels like war, but it actually leads to peace. Look at the next one. He trusts that when he will let go when it's time for this grown-up child to have a more intimate relationship with someone other than him. He trusts that you will let go when somebody is going to move forward. Now, this is purely a parental one. This one is, are you letting go of your children? Are you letting go of them when it's time to let go? Now, I've already mentioned to you that my children have certain guidelines. If my sons choose not to live within my guidelines, I will still value them and love them. I won't enable it, but I will still value them. Will I let them go to another person that might even not be thinking the way I think? Yeah, I will. That's their choice. At a certain age, that's just the way it works. Do they understand that I value them? Now, what about the healthy relationship? When Josh marries Corrine, when that relationship happens, and both Joel and Caleb are involved in somebody that they're going to marry probably down the road, as I look at those women, my job is to entrust them with my sons, that my sons will care for them right, and them to care for my sons right. So we have to let go. How well do you let go? A lot of times, guys, we hold on way too tight. It feels like we're controlling because we are. Right? Got it? All right. Got that one. Look at number 18. Knows that he will celebrate the success that they attain and will not compete with them. You'll celebrate the success and not compete with them. And in essence, if they grow beyond you, you rejoice in it. If Lynn is more successful in her career than I am in mine, I'm the happiest guy in the world. Matter of fact, we'll probably at some point in our life live in Colorado because it brings the greatest joy to Lynn, right? It's her success. Don't compete with your kids. Don't compete with people that you love in your family unit. Rejoice in their and celebrate their success. I think one of the things that I went through in my dad's life as he started to degenerate, he stopped enjoying my success. You know, my dad has said, "I love you." He has, before he died. My dad said to me that he was, in some way or another, feeling that I was good at communicating. You know what he didn't say? "I'm proud of you." You want to know why? Because I think if he said I was proud of me, he'd have to acknowledge that I've grown beyond him. My dad was an amazing man. I should have never grown beyond him, but I did because he chose to move backwards. He chose to degenerate down. Guys, when you enter a room, how are you setting the mood? Peace, war. Where do you go with this as your family? How are you scoring? You still scoring yourself? Keep it up. Number 19. This family is going to be confident that he is truthful and reliable. It almost goes without saying. This family is confident that I am the kind of man that is truthful and reliable. I want to talk about a movie called The Patriot here, that the whole movie, and the guys give me a hard time about this all the time. I will pick a movie that has all kinds of blood and guts and stuff going on, and then the scene I'll show them or talk to them about is a scene that has no blood and guts. It's just this mushy kind of scene. So when I tell you I'm going to show you, talk about The Patriot, and we're talking about family, war, and peace, you go, this guy is so stinking confused. I mean, he doesn't know how to really be a soldier and what it's all about. But there's a part in the movie The Patriot where the characters are engaged in certain things that just bring it all together. The dad, whose name is Benjamin Martin, is coming home from battle in the Revolutionary War. He actually isn't able to come home to his normal home. He's from the South, and it's been a lot of destruction has taken place. And so they go to this area where the community has sort of been set up by a river that allows them to just kind of do life away from all the homes that have been burned and all the attacks that are going on by the British. When he arrives, Gabriel, his son, who's a soldier with him, is going to marry Anne. And as the two of them are going to get married, he blesses them. And you see in the scene an amazing celebration. An amazing celebration of their lives getting married together, of his commitment to her as he shares something that was from his wife who had died before the war. So Martin gives it to her and just lets her know how valuable she is. You watch in this scene the kids celebrating their dad coming home, being with them, all but one who doesn't want to talk to her dad. She just can't get over the fact that he's left her and he's become this man that she didn't know, and she's so afraid. She already lost a mom and she died. She's so afraid another one's going to die. In this scene, you see him engaging with Charlotte. She is the sister of his wife, who has taken on the family and cared for her. She is also a widow, and how the two of them are starting to build a love relationship. But the most magical part of the scene is where his little girl, as he's getting ready to leave one more time, going to go away one more time and leave her alone. As he's saying goodbye to each of the kids, the wedding's over, he and Gabriel have to go back to the war. As he's engaging and telling him to be careful, and he kisses Charlotte goodbye, and the kids all giggle. His littlest one, who hasn't spoken since their mom died. He goes up to her and says, "Here, just a little hug, a little kiss," and she pushes him away. And you can just see his lips quiver, and emotion comes in his eyes. And he goes, "Please?" And she moves away and snuggles in with the rest of the kids. So heartbroken, he turns and he gets on his horse. And he and Gabriel begin to ride away. And that precious little girl cries out, "Daddy! Daddy, please don't go! Please!" He gets off his horse and he hugs her. And he embraces, and they love each other so strongly as only a father can love a daughter, his baby. As that whole emotion of that scene unravels, here's what I want you to think about. As you come out of that scene, it's that tug at your heart that says, if I do this right, my children will want to race over to me and not let me go. That they're better off when I'm here than when I'm gone. When a man enters a room, what kind of mood do we bring? Do we bring flowers out and it brings delight to everyone? There are two more areas I want you to score yourself in light of that choice. Two more areas that I think become so critical that if you score yourself here, maybe as important here as anything I've asked you to do up until this moment. Look at the last two. Here it is. Number 20, excuse me. Knows that he will correct his mistakes in an honorable way. Does your family know that when you've blown it, you will say you're sorry? Does your family know that you will correct your mistakes in an honorable way? Does the family believe not that you're perfect? Guys, we're not. We're on a journey. Do they believe that when you mess it up, you'll say you're sorry and you'll ask for forgiveness and you'll correct it? And then the last one, 21. Knows that he is spiritually sensitive to their discovery of God's call in their life. Does he learn? Do they learn from you? That if they're going to find anything of hope and anything of peace and anything of joy and anything of love, it is going to be reflected in you, but it's going to be shown and seen in God. So we get to the end of this trail and we hit this moment where we look at the soldier arriving home. What kind of response is he going to receive? As the flowers come out, are they going to feel like the family just got peace because you've just arrived? Or is it the beginning of a war? Gentlemen, I so believe in you. I so believe in the man you're becoming, whether you're 14 years of age sitting here or 84 or anywhere in between. I believe that from this moment on, your goal will be, when you walk in the room, you'll raise the mood. And I actually believe if that's your goal, you'll do it. We'll help you continue in that process when we get together for Trail number 17.